You don't need beauty. You don't need wealth. You don't even need visibility. All you need is the ability to embed yourself into someone's thoughts relentlessly. Have you ever ached for someone so deeply it hurt to breathe? Stare at your screen, watching them come online, saying nothing, yet still hoping they'd care, hoping you mattered. You asked yourself, what did I do wrong? Here's the truth. You did nothing wrong. You were just predictable. They weren't giving you love. They were giving you absence on purpose. Not certainty, but hope. And hope is the cruelest drug. It doesn't nourish. It stars you just enough to keep you crawling back. Machiavelli foresaw this 500 years ago. He didn't teach love. He taught haunting. How to linger in someone's mind without uttering a word, through silence, through contradiction, through calculated unpredictability. What truly captivates people isn't connection. It's interruption. The cliffhanger. The unfinished story. Not the one who said, I love you, but the one who vanished before the ending. This isn't about romance. It's a blueprint for psychological presence, emotional architecture, becoming the thought they can't escape. Because obsession isn't rooted in attraction, it's rooted in confusion. The greatest intrigue lies in almost understanding someone, but never fully solving them. If you've ever been ignored, ghosted, or taken for granted, flip the script. You don't need to beg for love. You don't need to justify your worth. You just need to become unshakable in their mind. 1. The invisible wound. There's a pain that leaves no mark, no bruise, no scar, no witnesses. No one applauds your endurance. No one even knows it exists. It's the agony of being remembered only when convenient, of once mattering, then fading. You were the one who always reached out, sent the first message, waited. Hours passed. They came online, scrolled, laughed, yet no reply. Still, you held the door open. Still, you remembered their birthday. Still, you listened to their silence, making space for a soul that never made room for yours. Now, when they speak of connection, your name never surfaces. Then comes a whisper inside your mind. Was I too available? Too easy? Too much too soon? That ache isn't sadness. It's starvation, a hunger to be missed, to occupy someone's quiet thoughts, not just their 2 a.m. loneliness. You gave your attention, your empathy, your emotional currency. In return, silence. Not just any silence, the kind that rewrites your self-worth. Not because you were weak, because you were legible. In a world addicted to mystery, understanding is the death of desire. Here's what no one tells you. In the economy of emotional attention, abundance becomes invisible. You thought generosity earned affection, but you revealed all your pages before they even opened the book. You showed the ending before they fell in love with the story. And that's why they forgot you. Not because you lacked value, because you gave away the tension. And tension is a thread that keeps people reading. People don't obsess over what they fully grasp. They obsess over what they almost understand, but can't quite decode. You weren't boring. You were complete. And in a world ruled by endless scrolling and instant dopamine, completion is forgettable. You became clear too soon. And clarity is where desire dies. They moved on, not because you weren't enough, but because there was nothing left to wonder. No riddle, no edge, no silence thick enough to echo. That ends here, because obsession isn't built on visibility. It's built on absence that lingers. 2. The deeper mechanism. To understand why they forget you, why interest fades the moment you become emotionally available, you must unlearn everything you were taught about love. The truth is brutal. The brain isn't addicted to love. It's addicted to uncertainty. We don't crave connection. We crave the possibility of connection. The maybe, the unresolved, the spark we almost caught but couldn't hold. Think of the person you couldn't stop thinking about. Was it because they loved you deeply, or because they vanished right when you thought they wouldn't? It's that flicker of doubt, that one message left on read, that perfect silence after vulnerability. That's where obsession begins. Psychologists call this intermittent reinforcement, the same force that keeps gamblers glued to slot machines. Not because they win, but because they might. Every spin is a maybe, Apply this to human connection. When someone gives warmth, then pulls away, shares vulnerability, then disappears, your brain spirals, not from love, but from emotional dissonance. Certainty ends a loop. Uncertainty traps you inside it. This is where Machiavelli enters. He didn't write about love. He wrote about power. And power thrives in unpredictability. What's always available loses value. He didn't whisper this. He carved it into history. People don't chase abundance. They chase scarcity. Not because it's better, but because being denied bruises the ego. And bruised egos obsess. You were told, be honest, be open, be consistent. And you obeyed. But in reality, that creates comfort. And comfort never creates obsession. Comfort is warm, familiar, safe, but it never lingers. It never haunts. You weren't forgotten because you lacked beauty. You were forgotten because you lacked friction. You offered too much clarity when what they craved was a question. Because the mind doesn't obsess over what it understands. It obsesses over what it almost understands, what slips through its fingers. The people we can't release aren't the kindest. They're the ones we never solved. Machiavelli knew this. He never gave people what they wanted. He gave them what they feared to want, then took it away. Silence when they expected words. Distance when they expected closeness. Contradiction when they begged for clarity. Make your presence rare, he'd say, so your absence becomes unbearable. Because when you withdraw at the height of connection, you don't lose them. You carve yourself into them. They replay your last message, not because it was kind, but because it was incomplete. That's not cruelty. That's design. Because obsession isn't built on affection. It's built on architecture. You control the highs. You orchestrate the lows. You don't flood them with love. You drip feed longing. And that longing, it doesn't fade. It echoes. 3. The mistakes that kill obsession before it begins. You thought you did everything right. Replied quickly, were thoughtful, reassured, showed you cared. Yet, nothing worked. Why? Because obsession doesn't grow in safety. It doesn't bloom in certainty. It feeds on tension. It drinks mystery. And it dies the moment you become emotionally predictable. Let's dissect the 5 fatal mistakes that erase your presence from their mind before you even leave a mark. Mistake number 1, emotional overavailability. You gave too much, too soon. Your story's attention, secrets spill like an open book. But when the brain reads too fast, it forgets the ending. You became too easy to map. Fix. Let them work for layers. Reveal slowly, like a novel with missing pages. Mistake number 2, chasing clarity. You wanted them to feel safe, so you explained everything. Your intentions, emotions, silences. But Machiavelli knew, clarity is the enemy of influence. When people know exactly where they stand, they stop thinking. And when they stop thinking, they stop caring. Fix. Let uncertainty breathe. Leave room for interpretation. Mistake number 3, full access. You were always there, a message away, quick to reply, eager to please. But here's the paradox. When you're too present, you become invisible. Obsession thrives on earned proximity, not default availability. Fix, limit access. Make your attention a privilege, not a given. Mistake number 4, over-explaining. You justified every delay, distance, tone shift, thinking, if they understand me, they won't leave. But understanding isn't protection, it's closure. And closure kills tension. Fix, let ambiguity stand. Let them wonder. Mistake number 5, giving security too early. You showed your hand before the game began. Made them feel safe before they earned it. But obsession isn't born from guarantees. It's born from risk, from almost losing something you never fully had. Fix. Don't declare loyalty, imply it. Let them feel chosen, but unsure if it will last. Brutal truth. People don't stop obsessing because you were unkind. They stop because you were too generous, too smooth, too clear. Obsession doesn't chase softness. It chases tension. The unfinished thought. What keeps people up at night isn't love. It's, I almost had them, but didn't, and I don't know why. That loop, that ache, is the fingerprint of obsession. You don't create it by giving. You create it by withholding, by becoming a story that refuses to end. For the philosophy of power, most never hold power, not because they're unworthy, but because they believe the lie that goodness is enough to be remembered. Machiavelli saw this for what it was, a beautiful fantasy. And like all fantasies, it collapses upon impact with reality. Because reality doesn't reward kindness, it rewards positioning. In The Prince, he wrote, "It is much safer to be feared than loved, if one must choose." This wasn't a call to cruelty, but to clarity. Fear, uncertainty, and strategic distance create deeper loyalty than comfort ever will. Not because people love it, but because they can't forget it. Obsession isn't born from affection. It's born from what you withhold. Love makes people feel safe. Obsession makes them feel off balance. Think of every person you've obsessed over. Were they the most loving, the most available? No, they were the ones who left something unsaid. Who made you question yourself? Who gave almost enough, then stepped back? They didn't give closure. They gave implication. A glance that meant too much. A silence that felt intentional. A message that never came. And the worst part? It wasn't an accident. It was design. Machiavelli understood. Power isn't about control. It's about perception. Not who you are, but how you're seen. And once shaped correctly, perception becomes stronger than reality. Modern culture preaches, be transparent, be open, be authentic. But Machiavelli would counter, transparency is for peasants. Unfiltered authenticity becomes access. And what's always accessible is never feared, never respected, never remembered. You must become a contradiction, warm but restrained, present then gone, affectionate but unreadable. Never explain the full story. Let them work for understanding. Because the mind doesn't cherish what receives easily. It cherishes what it builds itself through imagination. To be fully known is to be easily discarded. To be imagined, that's eternal. 5. The shift from needing love to commanding presence. You were taught to seek love, to prove you were worthy of being chosen. But the ones who get chased are rarely the ones who love the most. They're the ones who know how to disappear without a sound. This shift doesn't start with tactics. It starts with identity. The world doesn't treat you as you are. It treats you as you believe you are. Ask yourself, do you act from need or choice? Are your words trying to be heard? Or is your silence speaking? Are you trying to be understood or becoming the one people work to understand? Machiavelli didn't operate from emotion. He operated from positioning. He knew when a ruler appears too available, he forfeits authority. But when he moves with restraint, his silence becomes command. You can do the same, not through manipulation, but mastery. Mastery of your time, your energy, your attention. Stop explaining. Stop chasing. Stop pouring yourself into those who haven't earned you. Because once you realize your attention is currency, you stop handing out like pocket change. You invest it where it multiplies. And you recognize your absence is worth more than your words. The paradox? The moment you stop needing to be loved, you become magnetic. Because people don't crave what's eager to be seen. They crave what resists visibility, what challenges their certainty, what keeps them guessing. You no longer try to be heard. You become the presence that makes others adjust their volume. So stop convincing people you're worthy. Stop negotiating your value. Hold your silence like a blade. Let your absence carry consequence. Let your unpredictability become gravity. Because obsession doesn't chase the loudest voice. It chases the quietest power. The one who never begged to be seen. The one who was never fully there to begin with. And when you embody that, you don't just walk into rooms. You redefine them. 6. The fear of losing you. Obsession doesn't peak when they want you. It peaks when they fear losing you. Not the relationship, not the daily texts, but losing the version of themselves they only access when you were near. That fear, quiet creeping, is the ultimate weapon. It doesn't scream. It whispers in their quiet hours. Did I lose them? Did I disappoint them? Were they always this far ahead? You say nothing. You let the silence tighten like a thread around their thoughts. Because the mind fights harder to avoid loss than to gain anything new. You become the emotional gravity they can't resist. But this fear must be elegant. You don't punish. You don't threaten. You reward discipline with glimpses, loyalty with subtleties, presence with stillness. And in doing so, you teach them, my presence is a privilege, not a promise. This fear rewrites how they act around you. They edit themselves. They calibrate their tone. Not because you force them, but because they can't afford to lose you again. You are no longer a person. You are a mirror, reflecting the version of themselves they fear never becoming again. And to lose you would mean losing that reflection forever. So you never have to raise your voice, never have to explain, never have to ask for devotion, because now they seduce themselves trying to win back what they think they lost. That's not manipulation. That's gravity. Unspoken, irresistible. And once you become someone they fear losing, you never need to chase again. They'll do it for you, because now they're not chasing love. They're chasing control, safety, redemption, a second chance at something you never even said was ending. And that is the final weapon. 7. You were never just a person. You were never just someone they loved. You were someone they couldn't figure out. Someone they almost had, almost touched, almost understood. And it's the almost that keeps them trapped. You didn't break them. You revealed them to themselves. You showed them who they could be, but only in your presence. And then you took that mirror away. What they miss isn't your smile, your words, your warmth. They miss the feeling of being close to something rare and not knowing if they'd ever touch it again. Most people are replaceable. Most presence fades, but not yours, because you never gave them the ending. And now, they live in the middle of a story only you could finish, but never will. They don't remember what you said. They remember what your silence did to them. You were never chasing love. You were becoming a legend, quietly, strategically, completely. And now that they can't let you go, you never need to return. Let the silence finish what the words began, and walk away like someone who was never just a person, but a presence they'll never replace. Fade to black. End of game. End of them. Not you. 8. The art-controlled disappearance. The most powerful exits aren't dramatic. They're quiet. No slamming doors. No final speeches. No social media subtweets. Just a slow, deliberate fade, like a shadow retreating at noon. Because obsession doesn't form in the explosion. It forms in the echo. When you vanish without explanation, you don't leave a void, you leave a puzzle. And the human mind hates unsolved puzzles. It will replay every interaction, searching for clues. Was it something I said? Did they meet someone else? Or did they just outgrow me? The more unanswered questions, the deeper the obsession grows. This isn't about playing games. It's about understanding a fundamental truth. People value what they have to work to keep. If you're always there, predictable, available, eager, you become background noise. But if you disappear at the height of their interest, you become a ghost they can't exorcise. 9. The scarcity mindset. Why less always wins. Abundance kills desire. The more someone has of you, the less they want you. This isn't cynicism, it's psychology. The text replied to instantly loses weight. The call, always answer, becomes expected. The affection given freely starts to feel owed. But scarcity? Scarcity elevates. The delayed response creates anticipation. The missed call breeds curiosity. The withheld affection becomes coveted. Machiavelli didn't just understand this. He weaponized it. He knew, to control perception, you must first control access, not by being cruel, but by being strategic. Give just enough to keep them hooked, then pull back, not out of spite, out of design. 10. The unfinished story technique. The greatest novels aren't the ones with perfect endings. They're the ones that leave you hungry. The ones where the last page feels like a theft, because you weren't ready to let go. Apply this to human connection. Most people make the mistake of giving the whole story up front. Their past, their feelings, their expectations. But the ones who haunt, they let the story breathe. They drop hints, not confessions. They imply, don't declare. They leave gaps and let the other person's imagination fill them. Because here's the secret. What someone imagines about you will always be more powerful than what you tell them. Let them wonder. Let them fill in the blanks. And in doing so, they'll write themselves into your narrative. 11. The power of the unsaid. The most seductive language isn't spoken. It's withheld. A glance cut short. A sentence left unfinished. A touch that lingers, but doesn't escalate. These are the moments that linger. Because desire isn't about satisfaction, it's about tension. And tension thrives in the unsaid. When you say everything, you leave nothing to the imagination. But when you hold back, when you let silence speak for you, that's when obsession takes root. 12. The final lesson. Becoming a ghost while still alive. Most people spend their lives trying to be seen, to be remembered, to leave a mark. But the ones who truly last, they master the art of controlled absence. They don't beg for attention. They command it by refusing to beg. They don't chase love. They become the exception to it. And when they walk away, they don't leave a goodbye. They leave a legend. 13. The unshakable presence. You don't need to be beautiful. You don't need to be rich. You don't even need to be seen. You just need to become the thought they can't escape. Not by force, by strategy, by silence, by disappearing at the right moment. And in that disappearance, you become eternal. Because people don't forget what they almost had. They only forget what they always could. So stop giving them always, give them almost, and watch as they spend a lifetime trying to close the gap.